My name is Isla Monroe. I'm 35 years old, a commercial contract lawyer, living in Seattle, and I never thought the sharpest betrayal of my life would come not in the courtroom, but in my own kitchen. It happened on a windy October afternoon. I had just returned home early, thinking maybe I could surprise Nathan with his favorite Cabernet and takeout from the French place he used to love. But instead, I walked into a sentence that would haunt me longer than any legal battle I have ever fought. I do not love you anymore. We should end this. He said it so calmly, so cleanly, as if he were reading off a revised business plan. My ears rang. The glass of wine I was pouring overflowed before I realized my hand was shaking. That moment split my life in two, the world before those words, and the one after. Nathan Cross, my husband of 10 years, was the man I believed would grow old with me. He was 42, the polished, high-profile CEO of a luxury restaurant chain that stretched from Seattle to Miami. We met at a business law conference when I was just building my reputation, and he was expanding his third restaurant. He had charisma, ambition, and a way of making me feel like we were building something together. I gave him the best years of my life, my youth, my faith, and every ounce of loyalty I had. I built my schedule around his, defended him when he missed family events, believed him when he said the pressure of expansion was eating him alive. But now I understand love does not vanish overnight. People like Nathan do not lose affection, they simply redirect it to someone they find shinier, newer, and easier to control. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being his partner and became a shadow in the life he was secretly outgrowing. I did not know it yet, but that moment marked the beginning of my rebirth and the unraveling of everything Nathan thought he could get away with. After that day, I began watching Nathan more closely, not as a wife hoping to fix something, but as a woman gathering proof. His patterns, once familiar and predictable, were now riddled with inconsistencies. He started dressing differently, tailored suits he never wore before, a stronger cologne, and leather shoes that squeaked with newness across our hardwood floor. When I asked, he said his clients expected a certain polish, but he had never cared much about impressions until now. His gym routine, once non-existent, suddenly became urgent. Late nights at the office turned into unexplained absences. He stopped touching me, stopped looking me in the eye, and when I asked how his day went, his replies grew shorter than the silence between them. I wanted to believe it was stress, expansion, burnout. I convinced myself to wait, to be patient, like a loyal soldier, waiting for peace to return. But love does not make you disappear. Love does not excuse erasure. I remember the exact moment my faith began to die, a Tuesday evening, when Nathan said he had a last-minute board meeting in Portland, but he left his iPad charging on the kitchen counter. Something told me to look. My hands trembled as I opened it, expecting perhaps emails or scheduling conflicts. What I found instead was a notification from a messaging app I had never seen. I tapped it open. The screen filled with photo after photo of Nathan laughing, wineglass in hand, his arm around a blonde woman who looked like she had stepped out of an ad for beach vacations and collagen treatments. "Can't wait for this weekend, babe," one of the messages read. I sat at the kitchen table for nearly an hour, staring at every filtered lie. The timestamps matched every excuse he had fed me over the last 2 months. I was not just forgotten, I had been replaced. That is when I knew this was no midlife crisis. It was betrayal with intent. If you have ever experienced a moment where the truth shattered everything you believed, comment yes below and subscribe to this channel for more stories that uncover the strength we never knew we had. Because what I did next was not quiet, and it certainly was not weak. Nathan had just made the biggest mistake of his life, and I was going to make sure he remembered it. The next morning, the world looked the same, but everything had changed. I made his coffee out of habit, then poured it down the sink. When Nathan walked in later that evening, loosening his tie and muttering about traffic, I was sitting at the dining table, phone in hand, waiting. I did not greet him with a smile. I did not ask how his day was. Instead, I opened the gallery app and turned the screen toward him. "Are you still going to lie to my face?" I asked, my voice low, controlled, but burning underneath. He glanced at the photo, him on a rooftop patio lips, inches from that blonde girl's laughing under string lights. His face did not crumple in guilt. It curved into a smirk. "So, you've been snooping!" That was all he said. As if his betrayal was my invasion. I could not believe it. This man who once whispered promises into my hair now looked at me like a stranger inconvenienced by my discovery. "That's all you have to say?" I asked. "You've been cheating, lying, building a second life behind my back, and now you want to act like I'm the problem." He rolled his eyes and shrugged, walking past me. "Come on, Isla. You always act like a prosecutor. Maybe if you focused more on our marriage than your court cases, we wouldn't be here." The jab landed deeper than I expected. He looked back at me, expression twisted with something darker. "You are not fun anymore. You used to smile. You used to try. Now you just criticize and correct and talk about legal things no one cares about. I want a woman who laughs, Isla, who looks like she wants me." My heart slammed into my chest. "So this is about appearances now," he scoffed. "You let yourself go. You are not what I pictured growing old with." The air left my lungs. I stared at him, stunned. Not because of the insult, but because the mask had finally come off. There was no shame, no remorse, just cruel, calculated selfishness. "You want a divorce?" I said, voice steady. "Good. But just remember, when you walked out on me, you stepped right into a legal war you won't win." Nathan laughed, but there was fear behind his arrogance. And I saw it. Because now I was done hurting. I was ready to fight. Nathan thought his indifference had shattered me. But what he failed to remember was this: I am not the kind of woman who breaks quietly. After he left the room that night, muttering something about calling his lawyer in the morning, I walked into my home office and sat in the dark, lit only by the soft blue glow of my desk lamp. My pulse still pounded, but it was no longer from grief. I opened the locked drawer on the bottom left one he had never bothered to look into, and pulled out a leather file folder marked in gold ink, prenuptial agreement, Monroe and Cross. He had signed it 10 years ago when we were equals, dreamers, builders. It was my idea, protection for both of us as we climbed toward success. But now it would be my shield. I flipped straight to Clause 9, and the words hit me like oxygen. In the event of proven infidelity, the faithful party is entitled to 50% of all marital and business assets. And just like that, his cruel insults no longer mattered. Because while Nathan had been parading around rooftop bars and boutique hotels, I had unknowingly been holding the very key to his undoing. I spent the next few days in silence, not mourning, but strategizing. I documented everything, screenshots of messages, hotel bills charged to our shared accounts, even photos of the woman wearing a necklace I had given Nathan for our 5th anniversary. I organized the evidence like I would a legal case, each file labeled time-stamped airtight. When it was all done, I made an appointment with Arthur Lane, the lawyer Nathan had mentioned. He would be using an old colleague from a previous acquisition deal. Arthur smiled when I walked in, casually asking if I wanted to settle this civilly. I handed him a thick folder and watched the color drain from his face as he flipped through. "You might want to rethink your position," I said, calm as still water. "Because your client not only cheated, but violated a legally binding agreement, one I drafted." Arthur's hands shook slightly as he promised to speak with Nathan. I said nothing more. I did not have to. The law was no longer Nathan's shield. It was mine. And now it was about to cut deep. Arthur Lane withdrew from Nathan's case within 48 hours. No warning, no explanation. Just a curt email to Nathan stating irreconcilable professional conflict. I heard about it from a mutual acquaintance in the legal circuit before Nathan even realized he was abandoned. That was the first domino to fall. The others came crashing down soon after. Nathan called me that weekend, 6 missed calls, 1 voicemail, where he sounded less arrogant and more cornered. I did not listen to the whole thing. I did not need to. By then, word had started to spread through the local business community. The once polished CEO who built his empire on image and charm was now radioactive. I knew his kind. His success was built not on substance, but on illusion, and illusions do not survive scandals. His mistress, the 20-something dream girl with sun-kissed hair and designer sandals, vanished as soon as Nathan's bank statements became a topic of legal review. I heard from a friend who worked in luxury real estate that she broke the lease on their secret downtown condo and moved out 2 days after the prenup details leaked. One afternoon, as I watered the roses on my new balcony, Nathan showed up unannounced. He looked thinner, his once groomed beard uneven, his button-up shirt wrinkled and stained. "Isla," he said almost breathless, "we need to talk." I stood tall, the hose still running. "No, Nathan, you need to listen." He tried to explain, to apologize, to frame his affair as a mistake, made in a moment of confusion. But I had already read the messages where he told her I was a cold trophy, and he was finally living. "Do you remember who added the adultery clause to our prenup?" I asked quietly. He blinked, caught off guard. "You did," I reminded him. "You said it was smart business to protect us both." "Well, congratulations, Nathan. That clause is now your reckoning." He looked like he wanted to scream, to argue, to turn back time. But all he could do was stand there and watch as I turned off the water, picked up my phone, and walked inside. For the first time since this all began, I felt no fear, no hesitation, just clarity. I was no longer part of Nathan's collapse. I was the reason for it. The court process ended faster than anyone expected. Nathan backed into a corner, with irrefutable evidence and no legal allies left, signed the agreement in silence. I walked out of the courthouse with my head high and half of everything he once thought untouchable shares in his restaurant group assets he had hidden under shell names, and the condo he claimed was for business entertaining. He never imagined I would touch his empire. But now it bore my name on paper, and that was enough. While Nathan scrambled to control the fallout, I focused on something far more important: my peace. I moved into a sunlit apartment on the edge of Queen Anne, filled with warm wood floors, trailing vines, and wide windows that faced the city skyline. I did not decorate out of spite. I chose every chair, every lamp, every frame with intention. This was not revenge. It was resurrection. My assistant Melissa, who had stood by me through the worst, became my operations manager when I opened a boutique legal consulting firm 2 months later. Clients came easily, referrals even easier. The same people who used to ask about Nathan at galas now wanted to know if I was taking new cases. Meanwhile, Nathan's fall continued. His company lost 2 major investors once the news broke. I did not have to spread it, the world had eyes. And when headlines mentioned the CEO forced to concede 50% due to infidelity clause, people connected the dots. Nathan sold his house, laid off his executive assistant, and stopped posting curated rooftop selfies with expensive wine. I heard he moved into a furnished rental near the waterfront, where no one asked him for interviews anymore. He tried to reach out, once an email, with a subject line that just said, "Talk." I hovered over the message for a moment, then clicked delete. I had nothing left to say, because my silence at that point spoke louder than anything he could ever write. This new life was not perfect, but it was honest. I no longer checked my phone in fear or waited for someone to come home. I no longer waited at all. And in that stillness, I found something I had not felt in years. Not vengeance, not pride, but peace. And peace, unlike Nathan, never needed an explanation. Months passed. I stopped marking time by court dates and settlement meetings, and started measuring life by sunrises over the city and the quiet click of my front door closing at night, with no one behind it to lie to me. I learned to enjoy the silence. The absence of chaos is not loneliness, it is peace wearing its real name. One afternoon, I passed by a downtown cafe and saw Nathan through the window. He was sitting alone, hunched over a laptop, hair thinner skin, paler eyes, hollow. I kept walking. I did not feel rage. I did not feel pity. I felt nothing. And that was my freedom. I never needed closure from him. I created it for myself. The lesson I carry now is this: when someone shows you they do not value you, do not stay, hoping they will change. Stand, leave, reclaim what they tried to reduce. Love should never cost your dignity, and healing begins the moment you choose yourself over the lie of what could have been. I still do not know if I will ever love again, but I do know this: I will never again beg to be chosen. I wake up each morning in a home that is mine, in a life I built from the ashes Nathan left behind. And if he ever wonders what happened to the woman he tried to replace, all he has to do is look at the legal signatures on every asset he lost. My name is there in ink, where his approval once tried to silence it. I did not get revenge. I got something better. I got myself back. If Isla's journey moved you, tell us in the comments. Have you ever had to choose your peace over your past? Tap yes if you've ever rebuilt from betrayal, and subscribe for more powerful stories of justice, healing, and rising stronger than before.